Welcome to the Salty Dragon Tavern. Hopefully you can hear us all and the audio is not having a particular problem. Someone's knocking at my door. Welcome to the Salty Dragon Tavern. Pull up a chair, grab a drink, and have a nice listen to me talk about my experiences overseas. As always, we're going to go through a few bits and pieces here and there, doing the introductions and going through all the bits and pieces about LARPing and the stuff that we do. So as always, Soulcraft Quest is coming up, or as we all know it, Blood and Gold, or as we termed the phrase before, Bag, is coming up. Black Powder and Bloodlines also have their ticket sales up and running. Ballarat LARP also has their ticket sales up and running, so all of these three LARPs have got theirs going there. So if you are wanting to go to these particular ones, please by all means buy some tickets and say you're coming and get some really cool costume going and get into those ones. If you're interested in other parts of Australia to look at the LARPs that are going up around there, then scroll down in Twitch to just under the video and you will see that there is a list of the other events coming up, as well as a link to an Excel spreadsheet that's been put together for all of the LARPs and reenacting type festivals also associated. So there's a nice little calendar there of all the events going on. And there's quite a lot of them considering. As always, I would like to also say thank you to all the people who have donated to us or subscribed to us with a little bit of money. It's only little bits here and there, but everything helps because it's actually really hard. I might actually even step aside. We have new seats. We got 8 of them for a good price to replace all of the broken ones we actually got. Hi, son. How are you doing? It's good to see you again. So yes, if you are feeling generous, there's 2 ways you can donate. First, subscriptions are good. It's only a monthly payment you have to do, and it's like $5 US, so it'll be like $7 or $8 for us, depending on the translation. Or if you don't feel like doing a subscription, which is a monthly thing, you can then purchase a bit cheer, and then through the bit cheers, you can essentially cheer the channel itself through using the emotes essentially in the channel itself. And this is like a once-off donation that you can do. So they're both of the main ways to do it through Twitch itself. As always, all the help you can give makes our lives a little bit easier, and we can eventually improve on the cameras and audio equipment and everything else that goes with it. All right. What else is there that I have probably forgotten? I've probably forgotten everything, like I normally do. Thank you all. Hey Samurai, good to say thank you for listening to us from work while you're busy stacking shelves or whatever it is you do in that place. Serves customers. I think he said he was going to be closed roughly when this starts, so there's actually probably no one around. Yeah. All right. So yes, as I said, other LARPs, subscriptions help, bit cheers help, and of course on Sundays we have our Dungeons and Dragons game. Our Dungeons & Dragons game is kind of a little bit separate from this because it's Dungeons & Dragons tabletop and not LARP. We do play the Dungeons & Dragons game in one of the LARP worlds that we actually used to play in. The reason why I say used to, because we used to play in the world of Swordcraft. But Swordcraft has now changed over to more of a Warhammer-centric sort of background, which means they're doing a sort of like a soft reset for everything. And basically just changing. So we're still sticking with our D&D campaign in Old Althea, so that's why I always refer to it as Old Althea, and we're going through that. And come and join us for shits and giggles, basically. We have lots of fun, and I'd really appreciate more people coming along and watching and listening to us, and of course interacting us through the actual chat itself. Like our friendly here person in chat, Sunarel, who is one of the crazy Americans who stays up to 3, 4 a.m. in the morning to watch us. And we say thank you. All right, well, why not? Let's get into this. Let's go through some of my stuff now. We did originally have some videos that I put together that we were going to show. However, because of the way Streamlabs and Twitch works, they fortunately are still trying to sync with the cloud to actually be able to do showing you, so we can't do it. So we're basically going to go into a slideshow and skip the video for the time being. If the videos are uploaded by the time we get to the break, we will probably display them as part of the break. That was my whole intention originally. I am doing this in 2 parts. So the very first part I will do when I went to Icarus. Icarus was a LARP, a weekend LARP, a once-off weekend LARP, based off the TV series The Expanse. And we basically went to a old mine in the Italian Alps, locked ourselves in there for a weekend to simulate as if we were on an asteroid base. And that's, in a very broad stroke, how that particular LARP sort of ran. The second one that I went to, which was the Bunker 101, I went to Rome, and the rest of us who joined us also went to Rome, and from there we went to a small trip to a old 1950s military bunker just sitting outside of Rome, of which had gone through a whole heap of refits and stuff like that, and at this present moment in time it's a museum. However, it's quite extensive, so a lot of the museum parts weren't used, and a lot of the other parts that haven't been upgraded have been used for this LARP, but we basically locked ourselves underground in an old military bunker and played a Fallout LARP. And I will also go through that in the second half after we have a break. So yes, those are the two LARPs that I will be going through, and at some point in time in the future I'll also be going through some of the other European LARPs that I've also been to. Alright, so let's start this ball rolling, because it is all me tonight. So hopefully I don't screw it up too much. Alright.
Your hands disappear.
Oh, my hands disappear. Oh!
Just hit this button?
Just the transition button, that's the one. Alright, so I am showing you a picture at this present moment in time, which is essentially the front of the mine itself when we were going to Italy. Now, this one's important because while the image itself is not really all that, spectacular in any particular way, it's a understanding of what I want to talk about partly for tonight is some of the things that the Italian LARPs or even the European LARPs actually do when they run their game. And in this particular spot, this was just before we started going into workshops to sort of go through a few role-playing scenarios and to learn our team. Because when we ran this, they ran two events. They ran an Italian version and an international version. So the international version was all spoken in English. However, pretty much everyone and anyone came from all over the world. Me from Australia, every part of Europe almost, from Russia, from England, from Spain, a whole heap of different places. They all came to the international one to do this. So we had to get together, have a bit of a chat with each other and understand what our roles were, who our team members were, and everything else like that. So we went through that. So two of the things that I got from this, which was absolutely fantastic from the perspective of running a LARP, and one of the things that I saw was also carried over into the Bunker 101 too, and it's becoming a thing I'm seeing in a lot of European LARPs, which I think is fantastic. And all of this is this. The idea being, hopefully my hand wasn't cut off, the idea being is that when you put your hand up like that, you are basically saying that I understand that I have to be silent, and then I'm putting my hand up to say that I'm being silent, and if someone else sees my hand up, I know to repeat the exact same thing. I know it's that someone's wanting my attention to be quiet so they can explain something, and I found it really interesting because what it did is that it stopped anyone needing to yell at anyone to tell them to shut up. It became this like universal language thing of the LARPs that as soon as you start doing that, you go, oh, all right, I'll shut up. I know inherently I shut up and put my hand up to carry it along and make it ripple along so everyone understands to, shut the fuck up basically. Which was absolutely fantastic. So people no longer needed to actually say, shut up or wait. And all they had to do was just get their hand up, be quiet themselves, and then everyone just started following suit. And it was magnificent. It was fantastic to see it put into operation. I don't know if it was at a level of the LARP people who run it, or if it's just a sort of thing that's gone through European LARPs. I do not know. But overall, I thought it was a great idea. And it's honestly, I should have probably brought this up a long time ago, because I think it's something we could do at the local LARPs as well. Because what it does, it puts the onus on the actual players themselves. And it makes them understand why we're doing it and what the importance of it is.
Steve Curry, you should have explained about this one.
Yes, exactly. I should have.
Stand at the front door.
Yeah, exactly it. And then, I will carry it on if I ever see it, and hopefully I can get other people to carry on the same concept, because it is a community thing. It's one thing that's like, you can't demand it as the people who run these LARPs, but you can just encourage it. And eventually it will just catch on. And I'm hoping that's the way it works.
Like being nice to people.
Being nice to people, that's right. The second one, which I also really liked, is because of the freeformish nature of this particular LARP, especially in this is more Icarus that this happened. It didn't happen so much in the other one, but in Icarus they had this sort of role-playing way of introducing an elevation of how much anguish you want to put into the role-playing scenario. So the idea is that you go into a scenario, and because it was Icarus, it's all based on a little bit of criminal activity happening here, a few other little bits and pieces. It's right, a lot of stressful situations because we're supposed to be representing we're on an asteroid belt for starters, and there's a whole heap of stuff going around and all these weird things going on, and we can't get off because there's no ships to get us off. And a lot of us are ex-criminals as well. So we've also got to go through that, and so some of us as ex-criminals are kind of a bit nasty and kind of do a few things. So the idea was that there was a rule or a wording that say, I can't remember the second wording, but the very first wording was, if you come up to some player and want to interact with them in some particular level that was going to be stressful in some way, was that you start at the lowest level you can possibly think of, however, at a high enough level to make them understand what you're starting, where it could be a fist fight. Like, it could be just like physically actually punch them, but like with an open clawed fist, for lack of a better way of putting it, or maybe just a slap. And it's really light and you're not putting any effort into it. Then what happens is that becomes an onus on the person who received it. And they can either do one of two things. They can either say, is that all you got? Which is them giving you permission to go a bit more. Now, there's no real measure here, but it was one of those situations where you kind of just go, you don't go like, oh, straight up the top. You push it up a bit, you push it up a bit, and you push it up a bit until you think you, as the receiving of this particular stressful situation, you've had enough or not. Then it's a case of like, you say something, I can't remember the exact words they were using, which is one thing I've forgotten, was like, no, enough type thing. But it was a universal sort of phrasing that they used so they could use an in-character way of actually creating the scenario we're keeping the level going up and up and up and up with permission, but the permission was also in character. So it didn't seem like, oh, hang on, hand on moose head on their head and whatnot. Sorry, this is what's going to happen and whatnot. It was more of a, we know the situation you're getting into. We're going to start low, and then you can dictate how far we want to go from there. So that was the general idea of what then. So those two things that came out of Icarus right at the start, I thought were absolutely fantastic. And they are two things that, I'd love to push out to the local apps that we do here.
Is that the workshops?
Yeah, the workshops. So we had workshops at the front here. We gathered with all of the people that we had within our particular either departments or criminal organisations or whole heap of different. We didn't do criminal organisations that much because that was kind of like a secret. So Icarus had, I reckon I had like 5 pages of a PDF for my character because they had to go into this current situation of the politics between the Mars people and the Earth people and the Belters and stuff like that. So they had to go into what the current politics was about. Then they had to sort of just go in of current things that have just happened, like why you're on this base. And like for me, as an example of the character I was playing, actually I'm not even going to give that away because they haven't done Icarus. They might do it again, I don't know. But I was part of a criminal organisation, but that was one of my secrets. So there was a few other people also had the same secrets, and we were all part of the same criminal organisation. However, because of the way the criminal organisation originally ran, we didn't know each other. And our original criminal organisation got done in by the cops on the original asteroid belt we were on. So we were all dispersed. And I was playing one of the higher ups in this criminal organisation, so I had to, part of my game was to figure out, get the band back together and figure out where the rest of them were, while also trying to be an engineer on the station. All right, I think I'm not going to go too much into this one, so let's go to the next image because the next couple of images is about the scope of the people and the imagery of the starting of the inside of the mine itself. So you see quite a few people there. You'll actually see some of the, it's really hard to see because of the tightness packed of all the people, but you start seeing the green and the blues and the reds and the greys of all the overalls and stuff like that they're wearing. Go into the next picture as well. This one again is essentially the same image, but I'm panning off the image to the left-hand side a little bit to sort of give you an understanding of the actual mine itself, what it looked like in the inside. Now this is just the entrance area. We didn't actually use this for the game itself. This was kind of like the outer character area. But as soon as you hopped in there, first temperature change, because halfway through summer you feel the temperature drop all of a sudden. That's fantastic. And yeah, dripping condensation everywhere, that weird echo you kind of get from a mine. And yeah, it's the fact there's no daylight anymore, it's completely gone.
Was it still, or did they have air currents?
It was still. It was perfect, it was fantastically still. Alright, so going to the next image, because the next image...
Is this a giant pile of food?
Yes, because they fed us like a good food before we got into there, because I'm going to go into the food for the game because it was fantastic. So this one there is an image I managed to get, kind of like a behind the scenes sort of image of some of the bits and pieces they got going and some of the computer work they got going. And then let's go into the next image. Hopefully I'm not going too fast for these ones, but you can scroll back at some point in time after this stream and have a look. Now this is again another perspective shot that I had of all of us entering into the actual mine itself. As you can see, the darkness in some areas, and just that shot alone was like absolutely fantastic little shot there. Just the light in the distance, but the general darkness of a lot of the mine. It was fantastic, so atmospheric just by being there.
Do you know what kind of mine it was?
I can't remember the type of mine it was. I think because it's been abandoned for a long time. What it is used currently is they use it as a shooting range of all things. Yeah, you find loose bullets in there, but bullet shells and stuff like that, which I find strange because the echo in there will deafen you. But yeah, they've all got the headphones on and stuff like that anyway. I will get into the bathroom situation because the bathroom situation was a bit hardcore. So I'll do that on this next image. So scroll over to the next image, right? So this is the central hallway of all of the different places. So on the left there, we see the blue lights is the security base. On the right-hand side there, right in the right side, there is the actual bathroom, which basically consisted of 5 portaloos. We had no showers. They apparently wanted to get showers, but they never arrived, so I don't know what the deal was. Or maybe that was the other lap, I don't know. And like a couple of tables, a sink with some bottles of water. There was no running water, it was just bottles of water, so you had to basically pour it over to create your running water and whatnot. It was pretty hardcore. So yeah, portaloos, no showers, in dust, and just dust everywhere. So yes, that was what the bathroom situation was like. It was pretty hardcore, but when you're playing a game like this, it didn't matter too much.
So it's a dust mine.
It's a dust mine, basically. It's like all mines, like all underground area. That's the dust and stuff just settles on the ground. Then when you get like 100 people just shuffling through there all of a sudden, because it hasn't been used for a couple of weeks, yeah, it goes everywhere. All right, so now the next set of images that we're going to get into for all of this will be about some of the set design, and once you see the images, they are amazing. And I can't do it justice because there's better images out there that I didn't get my hands on. I was too busy playing the game to get more better images. But let's go to the next one, because this is the one of the perspectives of the medical bay. If you see on the right-hand side of that picture, they basically created a prop to do one of those MRI scans. CAT scanners, yeah. And I was like, absolutely fantastic that they put that particular level of detail into it. And all the other little bits that you don't even see in there, the little bits of detail that they put in. Absolutely fantastic stuff.
There's no large hadron collider hiding in there too.
Yeah. So let's go to the next picture because it's part of the same place. So in the medical area, they also had this area, which was the hydroponics, which represented a mixture of a food processing place as well as air. And you can see in the background there, they basically put a holly protruding tubing together, put some plants on them, and it just looks fantastic. It's just like, it's sparse because it doesn't look like it's big enough to like feed a whole base of people, but it was enough that you could understand exactly what they were trying to do with it. As soon as you walked into that area, you knew exactly what it was. You could see it, and I was like, that was absolutely fantastic, and I saw that. All right, let's transition to the next image. Now, unfortunately, this image is a bit boring because I wish I'd gone inside and taken pictures, because this is the comms room or the radar room. So it had 2 roles. There were 2 different teams with 2 sets of different roles, but they sort of worked together when they did their stuff. So the comms and the radar basically looked after seeing stuff outside of the ship, outside of the asteroid belt in space itself, to see if things were coming or going and so on and so forth. The comms, of course, were also the radio, who would also contact anyone who was coming in. Now, this is very important because one of the images I don't have, because I only found out at the very end because I wasn't part of the team that got to do it. So they had, I can't remember the name of the spaceship simulator software that goes around. Artemis Bridge Crew, which is a software simulation thing. They actually had a setup for that to represent an actual ship they were using. So unfortunately, because I was an engineer, I didn't get a chance to go on that particular little ship that they had. They had the security team. Yeah, probably. I don't know what they did. There was like this whole other set of plots going on. I had no idea what was going on.
The security team always does first.
Yeah, so yeah. I think it might have been even the... no, it's, in this particular case, it was the mining team that probably always die first because they're the ones going deeper into the asteroid where all of the, blue weird creature is going. Anyway, in this particular instance, they had like all these computers set up and whatnot. None of them did anything or anything like that. But their main interaction, which we all had, was these iPads, essentially. And with these iPads, they put a software overlay on them and had them all communicate with each other. So I could actually talk to the comms and radar people through the iPad through typing stuff, or talk to the food processing people, or talk to the leaders if they were listening, talk to food security. I couldn't talk to the miners because they didn't have a station for it. So they had to go to someone else to sort of get any information if they needed it. And the funny as it is, even the command didn't actually have their own. They had to go talk to comms because they were next door to comms anyway. So that's probably why they didn't do it. But they actually had these iPads that would talk to each other, and these iPads and the software they created controlled everything, which we'll get into later because it was part of the game that made it so interesting. So let's go to the next image. So this is this looks really weird. This is probably one of those really boring pictures too, but because what it is, all of that walls they brought in was actually the commander's meeting room, for lack of a better way of putting it. And they would just get in there and doing all the discussions, figuring out what's going on, get all the information they had, and discuss everything that they needed to do and not do, and go through all of their stuff. Tucked away in a little area, and they were just doing their thing. All right, so chuck over to the next image. This here, and the next image too, when it gets shown up, are very sparse and don't look like all that much. And I couldn't really give it justice with the images that I had because I did miss a couple of the views of this area. So they had like techno music sort of going on with the screen there. They had like a little bar where they actually had drinks and stuff. This is the entertaining area, or the R&R area, for lack of a better word. And here, they even like in that picture right there behind that red wall had like a sort of like back room for the special rubs. Of which some of the players were also being those particular roles as well. So yes, this was an area that I frequented a lot. So jump over the next picture. As I said, this is even more boring than the previous image, but this is a couple of chairs. Sorry?
It's a shooting range?
That shooting range in there, it might have been shooting range, but we used it as a boxing ring for the purposes of there is not much entertainment on this asteroid belt.
It's been suited a bit.
Pretty much. So like you're having an issue with someone else on the base, and the general, yes, VIP bar, Wilhelm, actually a VIP bar. I was using bar's probably not quite the right word for it, but anyway. So yeah, we did boxing and stuff like that, and a lot of people had a bit of fun with that, role-playing that one. All right, so I will go back to the recreational area because it's actually had a lot of importance to my character, but I will go back to that because this next image is one of my favorite, well, it's not so much my favorite images, but it's an image of one of the most favorable things at this lab.
It's food, of course it's your favorite.
No, but this is it's not because of the food that they were serving, it's because of how they were serving it. So the very first images that you would have seen when I'm showing all of the people in that entrance area, we got fed the only good food for the whole weekend at the very start. So they gave us like, Italian rolls with like, salami and stuff like that, and different meats and stuff like that. Stuff that was pretty reasonably tasty, yet quick to put in just a roll or something like that to sort of keep us going. Bit of salad. Not much, nothing spectacular, but compared to what we were just about to have, it was 10 times better than anything. So because we're supposed to simulate being on an asteroid belt, and this was what I thought was a beautiful thing. So two things. Remember how I mentioned before that we were all connected through laptops? Through iPads. This was also connected through a system that was connected to the whole base. So us at engineering, we had a certain amount of power in our base, and unfortunately the base was built with really shoddy parts and stuff like that. So there was never enough power to power everyone. So they had to actually contact us, say, can we have enough power to produce the food? And once they do that, then they can produce the food. And they had a machine there connected to all of them that was basically designed as a pump to pump out goop. I kid you not. They basically had mushed up cauliflower, so mushed up into a goop. And they served it with like a
That's called nutrition paste.
Nutrition paste, that's right. And they basically served it with like the driest biscuits you could possibly think of. And it was beautiful. I absolutely loved it. Not because it was horrible. You kind of like going, I don't know if I like any of this. I gotta eat, don't I? Like, oh, this is so bad. But just was like so appropriate for the whole scenario, and I absolutely loved it. So that's why that's like just one of those scenarios, one of those attention to detail for what you're trying to achieve that created that atmosphere for what was actually going on.
Prison colony, yeah.
Kind of like a prison colony.
You happy food because you feel good about yourself.
We're also out in the asteroid belt. It's not like we can get fresh food. So we got given basically whatever we do. We basically make protein paste. Somewhere else throwing up in the chat.
There's also soil green.
Yeah.
Soil white instead.
It was like they had a chickpea mash. It was just chickpeas mashed, nothing else. Probably water added to it. I didn't touch it. I hate chickpeas, but it was there. I think people hated the food so much because it just started piling up after a while. Come by, grab a quick dry biscuit, chuck that down, grab some water, grab some drinks, all that type of stuff. It was quite good. I enjoyed it thoroughly. All right, and that was the food. I loved it so much. All right, so the next one, I wonder if it's got the flashes going. I don't know. It probably doesn't. So this is the mining area. So at the top part of the base, so when the image that I showed you of the hallway, I was actually doing that image from behind me would have been where the miners would normally go. I didn't interact much with the miners, so I don't know what they did all that much. However, because they were the miners, they'd often go in deeper into the mine itself to actually do mining and stuff like that, get resources, because that's essentially what this base was, it's a mining base. And so they do it, and in doing that, they interacted with a lot of the plots that were going on. Because if you've ever watched The Expanse, a lot of the plot was based on the plots going on in the Expanse TV series itself. So there's kind of like the weird blue creature was kind of like going around, and all this like weird stuff happening, and all these conspiracy theories going around. So they encountered a lot of that sort of blue man situation. All right, so we're going to go into the next set of images, except my transitioner is suddenly Facebooking. Nick?
It's ash.
It's ash, is it? All right, so this one is a transition, and this particular one will go through a few different images. So the very first one you're seeing right now is a weird blue looking thing. This one now that you'll be seeing is a bunch of people inside a weird looking building with a red light. And the next one is a TV screen that's actually in that building, representing part of the shuttle. So all of these images that we're cycling through now are the three of the images that I got of the shuttle. So what we're going to do next, before I get into description of all this, we're going to go into hopefully. No, we're not going to go into the video, which is really annoying. Unfortunately, it's still syncing. So hopefully, maybe by the end of it, I might even just repost it later on, because the video footage that I created was a video footage of the shuttle itself. However, unfortunately, it's not up. I'm just going to have to describe it, and hopefully it gives it justice. So what they created was basically a small little building in a weird sort of pointed diamond sort of shape. And at the point, there was a door which went to the science department. To the left-hand side of the ship, if you were facing that way, went to the engineering. And the right-hand side of the ship basically went back to the main central area.
That's a mission.
And what they did to simulate the fact that this shuttle would actually travel around the asteroid was the thing wouldn't move at all. But what they do is that you would hop in and you see the green light, especially in that one there. So the green light represented which place you were at. So if the green light was above the science door, then that's the door you could exit and enter through to get into the science area. If it was above the engineering door, you can get into engineering with the green light. And if it's above, of course, the original door, you can go back to where you came from. So what would happen is that this TV screen that was going up there would go through a repeated process of starting up, traveling, stopping, waiting for like a minute for you to do your transition through the green light, and then flash for a little bit, telling you that now it's about to leave. So you've got to do all of your stuff and basically get back into the shuttle. And then what it will do is it will go through the process again, travel to the next stop, and then the next light will light up. So only one light would light up at a time, because you're traveling from the main part of the station to science, and then from science to engineering, and then engineering back to the main part of the station.
When you said shuttle, I thought like space shuttle, like flies around outside the asteroid.
Oh, no.
Like inside train system.
Yeah, inside train system type thing, yeah. They called it a shuttle. That's the terminology they used in the actual game itself.
Makes sense, but
Yeah. So they basically simulated the concept of it traveling. So when you were in engineering, if you wanted to go to the science department, you have to basically go into the shuttle, wait for it to stop at the main entrance, just sit there and wait while people came in and out, and then wait for it to travel to the science department. Finally, when you're at the science department, you can go into the science department. So then you have to wait for it to basically travel around that whole route again before you can get back in if you wanted to go anywhere, which meant that if you wanted to go back to the main part of the base, you would have to go to engineering first, wait there and do nothing and not go into engineering, wait for the green light to go off and the red light to sort of come on, then go to the next part of it when the green light's on and go in. Bedtime, son. Good night, son.
that's on.
So, and it was very interesting the way they do it. So it would just basically rotate and sit there, and you created this atmosphere or this effect of basically just being in a shuttle. The train system essentially around the asteroid belt to get from place to place. Yes. And the beauty of it is that it created this tension, because you got to I've got to get somewhere, but you can't rush because there's no air outside. So when you went through one of the green doors, when the green light was lit up, these blue rope lights would light up to tell you that the path was all good and whatnot. So when the green light wasn't there, so when the shuttle wasn't in that particular location, the blue lights would actually go out and it'd be completely dark. And so you're basically on your lonesome dying because there's no air in that particular area. So yeah, it was a very interesting little shuttle. All right, so the next set of images that we're also going to slideshow through is the engineering department. And I unfortunately also do not have a video of this one either, because I forgot about this one. Because this is my department. This is the area that I was in the most, if not the relaxation area and the food area. Here we controlled the base because we had the power, literally had the power, And so yeah, it was just like they put this thing together with this big light happening, and they also, if you see in the picture where it's slightly closer, you might see a black box in there, which is basically a bigger speaker. Because when the whole thing was up and running, they had this noise. It was like this drone, this like, and it was just constant. And every time you put the power up or power down, of course, it would change its tone according to the amount of power you're putting in out. So like more power you're up, it's like and then like the higher that's like type thing. But in this really sort of industrial, heavy sort of way, you kind of like go, that's really bad. Yeah, you kind of like want to do that, except that if you sit there for like 10, 15 minutes, and you kind of get used to it after a while. Then every once in a while, because the whole system was connected, it would shut off. No power, the lights would go out, the noise would stop, the computer would be going, it's frozen, it's not working. And you're like, all of the systems are still connected to tell you that things are going bad. All of a sudden, you're getting all these messages from like comms and food saying, why are we losing air? What's happening to the water? Why can't we help people? You know, so on and so forth and whatnot. And you're like, we have no idea why it switched off. It just switched off.
Why's there no lights?
Why's there no lights? Then suddenly switches back on again. You're like, all right. What the fuck's going on? That was a lot of my time in engineering, wondering what was going on. All right, so this is all the images I have put together, the images that I've gotten of this event. There are more images going around. So what we might do is we might just transition back to. Yes, let's go there. Let's go back to that one. So this one, reason why this one's important to me because, as I said, I was part of a criminal law organisation. And one of the mistakes I made with this LARP, and if anyone who's overseas who's watching this, one of the mistakes I made with this LARP is that I arrived after a 20-hour flight on the Friday of the LARP. Bad mistake. Bad mistake. So, yeah, I was like wrecked already from the flight, and then I'm going into this. So, no matter how much I tried to persevere through this, it wrecked me. Wrecked me big time. And I did not get the full experience I could have got out of this because if those who know me quite well, who know I run the underworld or do all this other shady stuff, being part of a criminal organization where I'm one of the heads of the criminal organization, it was like my cup of tea, my type of game, and I never did any of it. I was that. It was just like that out of it. It was that bad. I didn't think about it. Like I didn't think that like I'm in the right area for all this to happen. I was here quite a reasonable amount that I could have just easily talked to the people I needed to talk to. Just too tired. I was just a good place to sit down and relax and not worry about things. And other things were going on in the engineering department, which there was politics going on. Like one of my other team members was like trying to undermine me to become, because I was the head of one of the engineering teams. So she was trying to undermine me to the leaders to try and kick me out of the position so she could become the leader.
So, how many people were in this line?
100.
So, you had how many different divisions? You had communications?
Communications, radar, which were two different systems, but they were in the one block. You had your leadership, you had your entertainers, you had your miners, you had your security, you had medical, you had science, because medical and science were two different people. You also had the hydroponics, because they were separate from medical, but were in the same area. Food, and that's it, I think, and engineering. And so this is the next.
That's what I mean. Like, how many people are we talking about in each department, or like you said, you were
somewhere
one of the engineering teams.
Yeah, so there's
two teams of 5.
Yeah, but basically 2 teams of 5 in each department, give or take. Some of the departments didn't have as many. Like us in engineering had about 5 on each shift. I know security had quite a large number of people. I don't know if mining did. I'm pretty sure the entertainers didn't have quite as many. I'm pretty sure food was reasonably like 3 or 4. I can't remember off the top of my head. Medical was reasonably light, so it didn't have as many.
Did you choose what department you wanted to be put in, or they just put you in?
There was a certain amount of choice you got for the character. So because of the type of LARP that it was, and being a once-off and not a part of a continuous campaign, when you purchased tickets, then you could sort of pick your top 3 characters. So they had all of the characters listed out, describing who they were and whatnot, but didn't list out all of their secrets, just listed sort of the general who they were and a bit of what type of character that they were, their personality and what their position was and stuff like that, and to give you a bit of an idea of what you're playing. So then what you do is when you come to this LARP, and you'll find it if you go to most of these LARPs, it's kind of how they've been operating, you pick like the top 3 characters, and depending on everyone else's picks and stuff like that, you get one of these picks most likely. Otherwise, it becomes a random choice about what you get. Yeah, I picked 3 particular characters, and in this one, you could also pick as an optional extra. You could pick that you were part of either a criminal organization or another secret organization of something. There's actually a few different secrets and a few different things you could hide. and you could opt in or opt out for that particular part, which also dictated what character you got to. So I don't know the maths behind it that they used, because when I originally picked the 3 characters that I picked, I didn't pick the need to pick if I wanted to be a background or anything like that for criminal organizations or something like that. So I just sent them an email saying, if you need someone in a criminal organization or if you need someone to do something, I'm happy to do whatever. Thus I got this role.
And then use it because you're too tired.
Too tired, that's right, yeah. Like, I did use it a tiny bit, but not enough. Like, and like right at the end of it, when we all started talking, when we realized what positions we were and whatnot, we're going, God damn it, because like I was talking to one of the guys, I did contact one of them, and he was doing a lot more of the work and whatnot, so it was good that I was able to feed through him. However, it was because of him that I knew stuff was going on and that stuff was being moving forward, but I wasn't interacting with it as much as I should have been. And yeah, I was a mixture of tired and a mixture of there was a lot of stuff going on, like even in the engineering department, because after a while, as I said, suddenly the engineering department would just shut down, there'd be no power going on, and you're wondering what the fuck's going on. We also had the NPCs that they had, so like while I said there's almost 100 players there was like at least another 30, 40 odd crew as well. And we had a spaceship land at the asteroid belt. We didn't know about it because in the engineering department we don't get told these things. We've just got this little console that, you know, they're typing shit to us, so we don't know what's going on. So, you know, we had a ship land, and all of a sudden the engineering department is assaulted by like these 5 pirates. And we're like, we're screwed, and we can't get out of here to actually warn anyone what's going on. So we've got this own little thing going on, and they've turned the power off. And we can't tell them that they've turned the power off because they've turned the power off, and we can't actually get to the actual control to tell them that this thing's happening because the pirates have taken over the whole place. And then there's these big, massive sort of brawls that are happening, trying to take over the pirates and stuff like that, trying to take control of the thing, and people going down. You couldn't die, but you could be badly hurt. But also because of the way the game played, it was more about the tension of the scenario more than actually killing people and racking up kills. So no one died, but it was just more of you've got to play a scenario where you have someone threatening you with a gun and treat it like a real gun, even though it's just a stun gun, because no real guns got used in an asteroid belt, because we're not quite sure what will happen if someone actually used a real gun on an asteroid belt. On an asteroid base, you know, one stray shot could basically kill everyone. So yeah, we had that. So that little thing happened, and then the power shut down, and then the computer started going crazy. It started playing music over the speakers, and it was playing. I can't remember. It was playing. I think it was Ground Control to Major Tom or something like that. And it was playing this particular song. And I was just playing this particular song over and over and over and over again, and everyone was just thought nothing of it. And I'm like, I'll have a bit of fun with this. I'm just going to request a song to see what happens. And I request Starman. Oh no, it was Starman that was being played, Bowie's Starman. And I requested Elton John Rocket Man, just for a bit of fun. All of a sudden, like within like 10 seconds, Elton John is like, you know, Rocket Man's playing over the loudspeakers. I'm like, holy fuck, what have I done? It was like the biggest freak out that I had when I realized, a bit of a joke, let's try this out. And all of a sudden he's playing it across the speakers, and I'm like, all right, this is not good. Of course, I made more requests. I actually threw the request, because I requested another song. I just can't remember what it was.
Like you were just typing
in commands.
Into the general chat? Or?
There was like different chat channels, and one of them was the AI's chat channel. Mm-hmm. So the AI's chat channel is what you do to actually talk to the AI itself, which of course was essentially someone being a GM on the other side, but they were representing the actual computer itself.
The base computer. The
base computer, yeah. And they were doing all sorts of things, and they were switching things off left, front, and center. No, but it was something like that. It was that classic, you know, Odyssey 2001 Odyssey sort of scenario when they were doing it or not. And when you're doing all these weird things, the messages that it was typing out was going into like all this philosophy and stuff like that, and about, you know, human becoming more evolved. And you got like these weird blue creatures running around in the base, and you kind of just like going, I don't know if that's evolution, if we should actually go down that path. That sounds like really bad. The computer's going, no, it'll be fine. This is like the next evolution of humanity. And I'm like, we turn into blue monsters. Doesn't look like humanity to me. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and thus, there was a lot of stuff still happening. So while I still managed to sort of get out of there and go talk to other people, I was just focused on that or tired, one of those two things, which made it really sort of not as much as fun as it could be, but shit happens.
So they had, what was the sleeping arrangements?
The sleeping arrangements were actually, that was a good point. Can we transition to the general talk camera? So the very top. That's the one, because there's no point in having an image staying there. It's like, I am a better looking person. No, I'm not. So the sleeping arrangements was also one of the key factors in creating stress. Because what they did is that while there was 100 people there, or 100 people take, we were on shifts. So two things they wanted to do was simulate a 3-day event in 2 days. So we had sleep shifts of about 5 to 6 hours and day shifts of about 12 to 14 hours. And the idea is that when we were having our day shift, there was like 50 odd beds. Those who were sleepy would sleep in them, and then once they've stopped sleeping, pack up all of their stuff, and then we would sleep in them. And we're talking like 5-6 hour shifts, and the shifts that they put together were specifically put together badly. Like they were done on purpose, because like one shift had 4 hours sleep, and another one, like we had the worst shift because we had like longer hours and less sleep. The other shift had like at least 6 hours, and we had like 4. And I started seeing this, and I'm like, this is fucked. I started trying to make a crusade out of it to change this shit. Nothing happened of it, of course, but yeah, we got a hot bunk basically, and it added to it. So like, no showers, really crappy portaloos, the food paste and dry biscuits, the hot bunking of the beds and stuff like that, the dust, the noise coming in, and then all the stress of these blue creatures coming out and attacking people and stuff like that. And then like right at the end, we finally get, because we're out in the asteroid thing and we're out in space, they actually had people representing ships orbiting the area, and they were doing it through a handheld radio. And because I have a bit of a background in using radios, right towards the end, before, like on the Sunday when we were about to finish up a orb, in the science department, because the science department also branched out into docks, into the space docks, and we were getting contact with ships. So like I'm just basically calling over the radio. This is like an SOS from Icarus Base. Is there anyone out there? SOS, anyone out there and whatnot. And everyone was like, let me do it, because I was doing it really well. I was like, quite precise in what I was saying, exact what I was saying, and I was just left to my own devices on that particular one. We got in contact with like, not pirate, it's the OPA, which is the Outer Planetary Alliance. They were the first ship that we got in. So all they will do, because all politics is still involved, they were like, yeah, we'll come along, we'll get some people on our ship, so all of the belters, we'll take the belters. Kind of like, yeah, we'll take some belters. And then like a Mars ship came in. Yeah, we'll take the Mars people. I think the Mars people played a bit more politically and sort of like allowed a few of the Earthers to also jump on. Because there wasn't that many Earthers, it was mostly like 50% of us probably or more were belters. A lot of us, like, there's belters and OPA, which is somewhat the same, but somewhat not. There's a bit of a crossover. So the belters is specifically all of the people who live in the asteroid bases. And the OPA is Outer Planetary Alliances, so like Europa Moon and Jupiter's moons, where they have bases and so on and so forth.
Anything past the belt.
Anything basically past the belt, yes. But there's also, because they're sort of somewhat aligned and somewhat similar in their scenarios, one of the same but not at the same time. It's kind of weird. And politics comes into it, and of course Mars gets into it and Earth gets into it, but all of us, those type of people, were there. So politics was being played, ships were coming in and whatnot, and yeah, it was interesting to see who would actually leave and live. Because the whole place was falling apart. Things were just, the AI was switching things off on purpose, that's what it felt like, to essentially knock us out so we could evolve. That was kind of like what we're getting. There's too much misinformation going around and too many ifs, buts and whens, and we're not quite sure what the fuck was going on. And that was the beauty of it. I had no idea what was going on. All I know is I survived and got off. That's all I know. was like one of those laps where you just go, I don't know if we won or lost. We can't win or lose. I just got the fuck off. That's all that matters. I am still alive.
Did I survive to end? Yes.
Did I survive the end? Tick. It's all the tick you need. Because a lot of people didn't. Which is interesting though, because I'm over like the handheld radio and I'm, talking to, and all of a sudden, Mars says, yeah, Mars, we're here, we can dock with the ship and whatnot. And we're having a good old conversation about what's going on, and I stop for a bit and they talk with the other ship that's also trying to dock. And everything goes quiet all of a sudden. And there's like a GM off on the other side of the tunnel that they had made with all the plastic and stuff like that, so you couldn't see them. And all of a sudden they've got like these really loud firecrackers and they crack one off. And then they crack off another one. And we're like, holy, because like really loud, especially in the confines of the mine. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And I'm like, my only assumption is that like, because what they're trying to simulate is that one of the ships had crashed into the asteroid. Because they couldn't communicate with each other and couldn't coordinate about who was going to dock at the ship. And they're both trying to dock at the same time. So one of the ships had basically crashed into the actual asteroid itself. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? He's still there. Who's there? And like, I'm getting no one. And then all of a sudden, like, oh no, it's fine. We finally got like to that point where it's like, finally, no. The Mars ship had basically collided with the asteroid, but because it was a Mars ship, it was pretty tough. It could handle it, but bit of a repairs that it needed before it could actually dock. So OPA ship docked. Holy propellers jumped on. Even if we weren't OPA, it's kind of like, you're OPA now. Bad luck. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I had like, I remember when things were starting to get worse and worse and worse, so they had like smoke machines going. And so there were smoke machines were representing like gas leaks and stuff like that. So they had a whole heap of face masks for air masks. And it was like 30 or 40 of them. So not quite enough for everyone, which I found interesting. So you basically had all this smoke coming out, and they coloured it too. So it was like a green one representing like poisons and shit like that, and all these different, all of the standard smoke coming off and whatnot. And because you're in a mine again, there's no airflow, and the whole place is just filling up with smoke and just pooling, going nowhere. And you got like all these lights going off and whatnot. You got these reds and greens of all the different icons of lights going. And you've got to put these masks on. So there's all these people crowded around these masks with gas leaks going off and weird blue monsters trying to chase people down. And you go, I have no idea what's going on. This is wonderful.
So what were the monsters? Were they just, I'm guessing NPCs with light strips on them or something? You don't know because you didn't get up close?
I didn't get up that close to them. I know that like one of them had they had a mask on. So it's just a guy with just a mask on, basically, of which they did have like blue LEDs sort of underneath to flow out from underneath him, which gave that look of the blue weird alien. So if you've ever seen the Expanse TV series, you pretty much know what they were trying to simulate. It wasn't like 100% what they got on the TV show, but you understood exactly. As soon as you saw it, you know exactly what it was, and as soon as you saw it, you know, get the fuck out. That was pretty much it. Because they played on a lot of they played a lot of on the darkness a lot. So like the science department who had their particular access to the mines, and the mining department who had access to their mines. So they just like stand there in the dark, and all you'd see is blue lights, and you could see a silhouette of this face and stuff like that. So they played on this scenario or the area that they had, the lighting that they had, or the lack of lighting they had, and it was phenomenal what they could do with that particular place. Just created all these little bits and pieces of stuff to put together to create stress. It's essentially what they were doing. They were creating this stressful environment, whether it be through the politics or through the weird experiments and creatures or through the AI going crazy and through all of these people wanting to kill each other and these criminal organizations trying to get one-ups on each other and stuff like that. It was absolutely phenomenal. I loved it so much. And I am massively disappointed that I just didn't do it as well as I could have and didn't actually have a lot of the energy to do what I wanted to do. Because one of the things that I also did, which I apologize for, is I sat at the computer for quite a lot in the engineering department to the point where I forgot about everyone else wanting to have a go. And I made that mistake. I didn't realize it at the time though, I didn't realise until the end when someone had made sort of an offhand comment in the background, and I've realised what I've done. So I kind of just like, all right, I just got to get out, get away from here, and kind of just went and relaxed with other friends. I managed to get some people that I got to know quite well, and we hang around a lot, even if we were from different departments. We were just like this fun around and whatnot. It was a lot of fun. I wish they'd run it again. They probably never will, but I wish they would. I'd highly recommend going to such a game. All right, I don't think we have any videos, do we?
No, it is still syncing.
It's still syncing. Can you select on one of the two videos at the top to see if they'll actually show up? It's just still the image of the screen. Nah, they're still syncing. All right, I unfortunately can't do the videos. I will probably have to post them later as a reference point for anyone who wants them, which is a bit of a shame because my camera work of both Icarus and Bunker 101, while really shit, gives you a good indication of sort of what the atmosphere was like as soon as you go into them. We don't even have to describe it, but unfortunately because the syncing hasn't occurred, yeah, it's not really sort of going to show up for you, which is a bit unfortunate. So what we'll do is that we're going to go for a break. We'll go to the loading screen, and then after this, I'm going to start talking about Bunker 101. I'll talk to you guys when we're back. Welcome back. I will now be talking about my experiences playing in Bunker 101. Bunker 101 was essentially a Fallout-esque type LARP set in an old 1950s Fallout shelter outside of Rome. It was, again, magnificent.
Fantastic.
And very dusty. Again, the problem I have is that I really wanted to show off the video to sort of give an understanding of what this place was like, but unfortunately it's just not loading up. So we just have to suffer in our jocks, as they say, and not have to deal with that particular scenario. So I am going to use the images that have been uploaded and go through a few bits and pieces. So I'm going to jump into the food situation again.
I feel like I've jumped into the food situation.
Yeah. So here, in this particular image, excuse me, you will see a whole heap of cups and what looks like noodles essentially coming out of them, or hay. And realistically, it was hay with a really light sort of beefy broth representing a sort of really beefy noodles in the most crappest way you could possibly think of. Because we didn't have the ability to actually just boil food, boil water with a big urn or anything like that. They literally had to get jugs of water, chuck them in the microwaves, heat up the water that way, transport them back into the kitchen, then to pour them all out.
Why does it look like they've got pots with another?
That was the next part that they did. They basically realized they could start using the Bunsen burners to try and also heat water up at the same time. But when you're basically trying to feed close to 100 people at once, yes, it became a little bit difficult. And the very first time around they did it, they didn't leave it sit long enough, so the noodles were basically still hard.
Just what, hay?
Yeah, pretty much. This is before they did the other one too. So they had like a milkshake. They were calling it a milkshake. And the milkshake was basically another cup of flavored protein.
Was it chunky?
It was very chunky. I couldn't eat it. I'm like, I'm hungry. I am so hungry. I'm like, nah, I can't do it. I can't do it. And they've realized how bad their choices were, so they ordered pizza.
So a bunker with a really
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Because of the way Italy's set up, it's set up in a really bizarre way. So where that music, because it's a museum as well, so it's actually set into a part of the country where people come visit. So maybe because it's a skiing area or something like that. But during the summer, it doesn't get used. But there were still shops in that area, so it was not that hard to sort of get someone to come deliver a whole heap of pizzas. So yeah, they didn't do it often. They just did it like, I think, for the very first night, because they realized that just having the protein shake was just not enough. The beauty about this particular LARP is that I came into this LARP with the knowledge of Icarus, of how I approached Icarus. So I came in to Rome itself a week early, and basically in a hotel room, walked around Rome for a week. Like, I arrived on like the Sunday or something like that. I had like Monday to Friday to sort of just relax and chill and enjoy Rome. And for that particular reason, I was able to relax and climatize a little bit to Italy. One of the biggest mistakes that I made is that when I first got into this LARP, I thought that it was going to be Fallout based a lot more. Yep. I thought it was going to be Fallout based like a lot more. I didn't read the costuming requirements straight off the bat. So I bought blue overalls. I started painting, 101 on them and stuff like that. Only to find out that there was no blue overalls, and all the costuming was basically 1950s jackets and dresses and all that type of stuff. Yeah. True 1950s sort of fashion, as opposed to practical, wear that you would actually probably utilize in a vault. So I'm in Italy when I learned this, because I thought, I should just check up on the requirements for costuming just before I head in there, like 3 days out from the event. I see all this that I need a jacket, and I had none. So I've done this big trek around Rome to sort of find myself a place that would actually sell me a jacket and a tie and a shirt. Of course, I didn't pay attention to anything that was going on. I thought I could just go to a place because it's the middle of the week and I could just go buy stuff and everything would be sweet. However, everything that I went to was closed. Because I found out it was a public holiday. So all of these so there were still shops open and stuff like that, but like a lot of the smaller independent stores and stuff like that were all closed. And when I found out, wow, that was a waste of a day. So I had to go back the next day, which they were finally open, and I spent like €300.
You had a nice tour of
I did. I know Rome better now. So yes, I had to go do it all again the next day. The problem is that because I did these things, I ran out of time for certain things. Like I was going to go to the Vatican City because I was essentially just across the road from it and didn't get a chance to. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad I didn't because it's very touristy and just packed. Anyway, I'm going to digressing on that particular one. So because of the food, again, it's one of those scenarios where, despite the fact that people, the food was a bit weird and they had to get the pizzas and stuff like that, it was one of those attempts again to sort of create that scenario where the food was just part of the game. Because after the very first time that they did it, where they didn't quite get it right the very first time, the second and third times they actually were a lot better. Like they knew to have the noodles sit in the water for a longer time, so they weren't as hard and crusty as they were the second time around. They're actually not bad. And they knew sort of how to make the powder a little bit better so it wasn't so thick and so terrible. I still couldn't do it, but it was better from what I was told. I think they thinned it out. I will go more into the description of the food itself because the next image you'll see, can you transition across now please? You'll just get to see a little bit of paper, and for those who want to really have a bit of a look at it and zoom in and whatnot, what this bit of paper represented is something that we all had to do. So what they created was these protocols about how to do everything. And this was a brilliant example of how both a mixture of micromanagement and those who are up the top who are making all the decisions have no fucking idea about how things actually work. So, point in case, the kitchen who were making our food, their protocols to make food was to basically boil, and they had to do this in order. They had to do this by their protocol because the protocol dictated how they had to do things. They had to basically fill a cup of water, boil that water in the microwave, and then put the ingredients in for 100 people. I have a chef in front of me who kind of look at me going, that doesn't sound very good. It sounds like it's going to take fuckloads of time. It did! By the time dinner time had come around at the allotted time, I think we waited another hour at least before we got any particular food. And the only reason why we got it in an hour after that is because the person who was one of the people in the kitchen was also a chef. Who went, this is ridiculous. This is going to take way too long to basically heat up a cup of water, put your stuff in, mix it around, put all your protein shakes in and stuff like that, and then do this one at a time for 100 people. He basically just got one of their big tubs or jars, or whatever you want to call it, a big 60-litre plastic sort of thing, keg, kind of like a keg size type thing, and just basically just poured the same proportions in there, and it's basically just got them to roll it around and shake it around to actually create a big massive batch of it, and just basically just scooped it and poured it out, And when they told me that, I'm like, all right. I don't know many about the other protocols that they had to go through, but the protocols, as I was part of the...
Did that guy get court-martialed and kicked out of the bucket?
No. The protocols that we had to go through, so this is the one that, because I was part of the exploration team, so the exploration team were the ones that were allowed.
I was going to say, list the teams.
I will, actually, that's a good point, I will list the team. So there was the team that was the food preparers, the cooks essentially, the team. There was the science department team, there was the medical team, there was the government team, the leaders essentially, there was the explorers, there was the recreational people who were basically, the whole purpose was to make sure people were happy and being entertained and look after the sporting events and stuff like that, so which became an important thing. I know I've missed something. Medical science.
No minors in this one?
Sorry?
No minors?
No minors in this particular one. Security. No, actually the explorers were security. Yeah, they basically, because being an explorer was like a misnomer because we were basic security. But we were giving the title of explorer just to represent that was our ultimate goal. But no explorer had actually gone outside of the bunker. And the whole premise of this particular game was that this was going to be the very first time people were going to be allowed out the bunker. So we were part of our gearing up was there was 2 explorer teams. So it was 10 explorers and 2 teams of 5. And that's how the protocols were set. So the idea was that we were basically in competition with each other to see who would actually be chosen as the team to go exploring. So we had to sort of like have that bit of a competition thing and whatnot. However, the problem with it is that both teams, when they got together, and the LARPers who were involved, both teams were just extraordinary. Some were better in some places and some people were better in other places, but overall, they created two absolutely fantastic teams that you just go, you couldn't even choose. So the person who was looking after us all, looking after the protocols and stuff like that, I think had a few words here and there and, you know, butted up a few of the leaders and stuff like that to basically say they're both going out. So we circumvented the competition by being, you know, trying to sort of like, you know, undermine each other, but like we were too much of a good sport and just doing it just so well and all that type of jazz that we basically just both got sent out. But however, our protocol, that's what I was getting to. Our protocol for this bit of paper was like this. So, and this is how we were expected to go explore the tunnels and outside in the real world once we'd left the thing out. So, 5-member team. There was the scout. There was the engineer, there was also the communications person who had to physically carry a set of microphone and a little plug-in. Like they tried to make it bulky too, so like old 1950s type technology. So it wasn't anything small. And the communication that they had was not remote. They physically had wires, and you see that image on my Facebook page too of the wires that are wrapped around in front of me. They were like 20 feet of wire that we actually had to travel through the tunnels themselves to actually communicate with people and stuff like that. So the idea was, it's also a cartographer, so the map person was actually doing all the mapping and stuff like that, and that was, so cartographer, science person, or the person who was actually gathering samples. So scout, mapper, scout, cartographer, science person, the leader of the team, and the scout. So that's essentially the 5. So the idea was this.
Was there a medic?
The science person's kind of the medic, if it really came down to it. The protocol was this. The scout would get a bit of rope and measure 3 meters on this rope. Go out 3 meters with this rope and essentially mark a 3 meter length. Stay at the end of that 3 meter length, make sure the place is clear to allow the next person to come in to that 3 meter area. I kid you not. Once the next person come in, I think the rest of the team, I think it's a communication officer who had to come in next, because the communication officer then would come in, also to make sure the area is cleared so the other 3 can come in. So the other 3 would come in then, and then the cartographer then would start mapping out that 3 meter square.
Yeah, I can see this happening for about twice.
Pretty much. So they would map out the square, and then once they've mapped out and everything's been mapped out, and they've marked all the places where weird anomalies would occur, and I'm not like talking like bits of rubbish on the ground. It's weird anomalies, so stuff that's not normally in the vault because we've never been outside for 100 years. So once the cartographer has mapped the 3 meter square, the science officer then will start exploring the area with a bit of help from the others to look for things out of the ordinary. And when they were going through the testing part of this, it was kind of like we found a rubber band. And it became this big hoo-ha about this particular rubber band. We had to communicate with the people on the other end of the communication device back at base whether we could proceed to pick up this rubber band. That was part of our protocol.
Did the rubber bands in the bunker?
It was more of a case of, because it was something that was not part of the bunker, like it was outside of the bunker, so it was considered an artifact of outside of the bunker, irrelevant of whatever it was. Yeah, so it was all of these things. I'm pretty sure the other protocols that existed in the other parts of the bases too were pretty ridiculous too, and it was done on purpose. You can tell it was done on purpose after you started doing it. But you know, we're LARPers. We're going through it all. We realise that this is what it's all about. It's based off the concept of still being stuck in the 1950s mentality, even though we've been there for 100 years. But we've been isolated inside this bunker for God knows how long, and the mentality has stayed the same. These protocols have stayed the same. You know, from higher up, we have no idea what's going on, telling us how to do things. You know, that was the whole concept of what they were trying to do.
And if you don't follow the protocols, then you're considered disruptive And
yes. Yes, he considered disruptive and all that type of stuff. So yeah, it was all part of it. And I appreciate it for it, but after we finally got the go-ahead to go out, we were basically going to do a leapfrog. So the first person would do 3 meters, then do their mapping and do all of their resources and stuff like that. Then the next person would do the next 3 meters and so on and so forth. It took us an hour to get like 6 meters. I think we managed to actually get outside of... So when we first left to go outside, technically, it was just another part of the complex. So it wasn't outside per se, it was just outside of the bunker that we're utilising as our living space. So it was just more tunnels that we're going into, which was absolutely fantastic. It was like completely dark, there's no lighting. That was fantastic. And they basically put a few props here, not props, but a few clues and a few props, little minor props, to represent part of the story as well. However, we never got to them in the very first time we got around because we had to drag this like 20 meters or whatever it was of cabling through, it became these big massive dramas. They got tangled up and communication problems started occurring, and one of the protocols was that if we basically just lost communication, we had to go back. So we went back, and because we went back, we didn't get a chance to explore the area as much as we could. So we come back, everyone starts cheering us because, you know, the first expedition outside of the vault, blah, 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 whatnot. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. And they immediately tell us that they want us to go back out there because the... intelligence, that's one of the team, the intelligence team. I forgot all about the intelligence team because the intelligence team also got communication with the computer team as well too. I forgot all about them because the computer was looking after the AI and the intelligence team were also looking after drones who actually sent out that would give them information. And these drones were like really archaic type drones, so they couldn't really relay live information or anything like that. So it's a case of they had to, because still that whole 1950s concept, so a lot of the information that they got back was very binary.
They think rainy pictures and shit.
Yeah, stuff like that, yeah. So it wasn't really taking pictures or anything like that. It was just like, it would come back, it would give us status updates about what was going on, whatnot. It wouldn't give pictures or anything like that. So they had to sort of really basic information was being given by these drones. Those who were in the computing department had to literally punch card to program the AI to do things. It was, I loved it. I'm so glad I wasn't there. I'd rip my hair out if I was trying to do it. Like, this is not how it's supposed to be. But yeah, they literally had to go, shit, what's the codes, and punch out codes, and then feed it through to the thing. Now it's all done by a person being a GM on the other side being the computer. However, it's just the concept of like, because they would feed it through, he would check it on his little thing to make sure it matches his little codes, and then just feed it back if it was wrong, or not even feed it back at all. He basically just like come up on the screen error. And they wouldn't know if it was because of the way they punched the code or what the error is, so they have to look up the error code in a book somewhere and stuff like that. All this really inefficient, shitty sort of stuff that makes you go, all right, I don't want to live during the 1950s as a computer programmer. So yeah, it was brilliant that they did that. That attention to detail in that particular part, it's absolutely fantastic. So we'll go into the next picture now. So the next picture is actually 2 pictures, and we'll rotate between the 2. And this is a couple of black and white pictures of the government, for lack of a better way of putting it. The government itself was also another aspect of the whole thing. So we had the donkeys, we had the elephants, we had the dogs, I can't remember the exact ones, what they were, and they're all political parties. So, of course, they were all representing of, Republicans and Democrats and stuff like that, but they were specifically called the donkeys and the elephants, and I think they're like Rottweilers or whatever that time. Mastiff, that's the word. They're the Mastiff party. And there was also another one too, but they were like really small and minor, so like a small minor party. And the whole idea is that there's politics running through this whole thing too. So while we were going out for the very first exploration, it was also vote day. So everyone had to vote for who was going to be the next president of the bunker for, X amount of years. And so there's a lot of political wrangling going on, stuff like that. So they had lots of fun doing that stuff. And this as you can see the images, the set that they put together for him was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Like you walk by that area and just go, man, this looks really comfortable. It's like, I know I'm not supposed to be here because I'm not part of this. But, it's what they were doing. And they were just like talking and talking and talking and talking. I have no idea about what. Because I know they were discussing about, exploration teams going out because they had found a drone had crashed but this particular drone that crashed had apparently gone like 300 miles or something like that. So it had obtained a huge amount of data. And they wanted it back because that huge amount of data was, just the most amount of data they've ever had when it comes to any of the drones. However, it crashed, so they had to basically send out one of the Explorer teams to go out and get it. Another Explorer team also had to go out and do a second mission, and it became this particular fight between...
It took you an hour to go 6 meters.
How
long would it take you to
a lot of that
200 miles?
A lot of that protocol started to fall by the wayside by the time we got her into the second one. So what happened is that the other team that I wasn't on got to go next to go fetch the drone. And they did that with a certain amount of success by essentially dropping the protocols. Because they got to a certain point where they went, no, we want the drone, stop doing the protocols, just ran, well not ran, but they kind of like walked and explored just down the tunnel, just kept on going until they found something, because they knew roughly which direction it was, because they were told. However, they lost communication, and apparently one of the team members decided that because you could see daylight, and because we're supposed to represent that we've been underground for like 100 years, he's like gone crazy. It's like daylight and started running towards it. And so they basically had to run after him, grab him, and knock him out, because still massive amounts of radiation out there and whatnot. So he's got knocked out or something. I can't remember exactly what's going on because it's all absolute chaos. They've come back, and this has happened much, much later in their exploration and stuff like that. And they only allowed the door, because part of protocols, they only allowed the door open for a certain amount of time. Yeah. And they missed it.
In this picture, you've got door times on it.
Yes, you got door times on the thing. So it tells you, you're quite right, in that picture it's the door times. So yeah, it tells you basically how, when they came back, they basically were in a bit of a problem where they had one particular guy who tried to run off towards the light, got knocked out in some particular way, and they had to drag him back. And they're basically asking permission to come back, but saying that they haven't done anything. And half their team members, like typical LARPers, not doing what they're told, want to go explore more because they saw things but couldn't get their hands on them in time because they had to come back. And so they're all this like big hoo-ha, stuff happening, and then they've lost communication because their cabling broke. I got to remember how the whole turn of events go because there's this massive amount of stuff happening. And they could have come back, but they're just like still debating amongst themselves. No, we're just around the corner. Like two of the team members are like, it's just around the corner, it's just around the corner, it's just around the corner. We can go do it. Team leaders go, no, you're not supposed to do it. It's not your protocol. Because they were trying to go for the other mission. They were trying to be glory hounds and trying to get both missions. I knew exactly what was going on. However, after we had the very first time that the cabling had broke in the very first set of missions, I fixed them, and I only fixed the one that got broken because the other one had better contacts. So I had like those gel pressure contacts for connecting wires, which is usually pretty strong. However, the problem is that they went out and it got caught in the grating and ripped the cabling right out. As soon as they started their mission. This happened. And like, they're all like, the protocol is that they had to go back. As soon as they lost communication, they had to go back. And they didn't want to because like that was their mission over. As soon as they go back, their mission was over. So they're like, no, just don't, look, no, they're trying to fix it. They're trying to do this. They're trying to do that. Trying to sort of like, it's like, no one's going to notice if we just go around there and go get what we want. Because they've seen the item, but they had to go in to go get it. And they basically just go, no, we want to go down there. We know something's down there, blah, blah, so on and so forth and whatnot. And they're going like, your protocol is come back. And they're basically just trying to, knock on the door and stuff like that. Come back. You're being told to come back. That's protocol. You lost communication and stuff like that. But at the same time, there's other, interests going on saying, no, they've got to go get the stuff. All this type of stuff happening. So I've just basically, because my character was, I was like really experienced. Like I was old. I was in the age bracket where I was no longer be given the radiation treatment. So everyone got a little bit of radiation treatment to sort of, because it was a little bit of residual background radiation that was creeping through the whole place. But as long as you had this treatment, it generally didn't affect you. Yep. However, at a certain age, dictated by the protocols, you are cut off. However, I was getting them on the sly. I was basically the expert. and which was absolutely perfect because I knew my electronics. Yeah, actually, probably skip into that picture because it's very appropriate to this. Because I, as a person, actually have a background in electronics, I was able to fix a lot of the problems that were happening with the communication equipment. I was able to rewire everything, get everything working. I was able to play with the audio and get it working well, and get everything sort of just working to an extent where we could utilize it to the best of our abilities. And one of the other people who was part of intelligence, who he and I would work together a lot on this, and we got ourselves down to a really great pattern. And it was fantastic. We had this really great rapport because I got into test things and like start, saying Shakespeare and stuff like that to test things. So he starts, reeling off some Shakespeare so I can test things. Because what happened is that when they went out for their mission to go get the drone, I think it was the drone. I could be wrong on this. It's been a while. When they came back and all the communication had basically died off because the cabling had snapped, essentially. And they were just dawdling and not coming back because they wanted to finish the mission. And I've basically just gone with all of the decisions that have been going around of all of the if buts, whens, not quite sure what we should do here, so on and so forth. And we've lost communication, we don't know what we do, blah, so on and so forth. I went, screw this. I'm like in this age bracket where I'm not supposed to be taking my medications anymore, and essentially I'm being left out to dry and I'm going to die soon and probably not go on any more exploration missions because I'm too old apparently, even though I was like 40. And I went, screw this. I just basically, without even half of my equipment on, like I grabbed a gas mask and just basically just went out there and sat down and tried to basically bring them in, reel them in, find out what the fuck went on, and I started fixing the cable. And I fixed it. Like, it took me a little bit. I fixed it. And there was just like this moment where we're trying to communicate with each other and we couldn't hear each other and no communication was going on. Like, I'm like playing around with a few bits and pieces, plugging things in here and there, redoing some of the wiring and stuff like that, listening over the thing. And I've got him, just constantly, he's started just doing the talking and stuff like that, knowing he's just got to constantly make sounds so I can test these things. And bang, all of a sudden I hear him. Because he's hearing me. He was already hearing me, but I couldn't hear him because of the way the cabling was. But suddenly I fixed it all. We could hear each other. And it was just like this, Apollo 13 moment where all of a sudden the door's been closed by this stage too. So we don't have any way of getting back for like another hour or something like that. And then I get the communication equipment together. And we have this communication sort of Apollo 13 moment. It was absolutely beautiful how it happened. And it created all this absolutely fantastic tension and all of this sort of angst and whatnot to sort of get these things going. And it was just so beautiful. And the whole place, even going in through the tunnels after you've done your exploration past this particular part, was just, there was so much. So we're going to go into a couple of the other images, I think, next. So let's go to the next one, which I think was the intelligence room. No, one up. Oh, no. Okay, sorry. No, that's the other one. This is the room, which is essentially, this is fantastic when I saw this. So the very first night that I went through the place, after settling down in the exploration department, stowing your stuff near your bed, and then I was in the exploration department for quite some time because we were going through all the protocols, going through all of the equipment, and just checking everything out. Like as soon as I saw the cabling and all of the communication equipment, I was like set. I was happy. But I came out and heard all this music going on. And this voices going on, quite loud. And I come out into like the main corridor of the whole thing, and they're basically projecting an old 1950s film on the wall. It was so beautiful. It was just like, that was magnificent. Because again, if I wish I had the video, because they were like playing old 1950s sort of swing and stuff like that over the radio, like, so good. I wish that, I have to show the videos later on when they finally upload, but they were absolutely mint. All right, so this next image is the image of the intelligence people who are basically looking after the drones and the radar. This whole area was just, as soon as you see it, like again, the video footage that I have gives us a bit more justice, but it's basically just an old 1950s sort of intelligence area where they've got like markings up on the walls and plot grids and stuff like that, and it was just you can't get anything like that here. That's what people don't understand. We don't have anything like that in Australia. So to see these type of things in old 1950s.
I was going to say the only bunker I can think of is Point Nepean,
I've been to Point Nepean. I'm not Point Nepean, as far as I know, is not anywhere near as big as this.
Oh no, it's not anywhere near as big. Yeah, it's like the only like concrete structure.
Pretty much
in Victoria.
In Victoria, yeah, exactly right. So we got pretty much nothing. So when you have something like this, it's kind of like it was just magnificent. But unfortunately, I didn't get to interact with them as much, other than the information they were passing on for the purposes of the missions we were doing. All right, so let's go into the next set of images, which is a slide. So very briefly, you just saw an image of a couple of scientists around a tree. So I'll go into that one first before I go into the others, because scientists around the tree was very entertaining, because the plant represented, again, like Icarus Base, it was the hydroponics, it was the plant life, it was like, gave air, it was one of the most important artifacts of the whole base, because it's one of the very few things that existed that wasn't irradiated. So it was so important that part of their protocol, which I knew this one, which is hilarious, that they had to sing to it constantly.
Okay.
Yes, it was hilarious. Like, I was barely in that area, so I never heard it all that much, but every once in a while you're walking by and someone's just quietly singing to the plant. So it was absolutely fantastic. In this particular image here, it's the science department. This one is part of the medical department with some of the beds that they got going. The medical department also tested you for a lot of the radiation and stuff like that you may have had. And this is generally right next to them. It's going to cycle into the next image, which is the computer. This is the AI. So this here is when I mentioned before about the punch cards, this is essentially where they were doing it all. And that whole back wall there is one big prop of theirs. So they had like iPads up on the wall.
There wasn't any tape reels in computer systems.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that the attention to detail that they used for that computer was that they used iPads for it, but they gave it that green monochrome look, as so it had all of the commands. And the commands would just every once in a while just come through in this gibberish, where you had to read, manual X, Y, Z to sort of understand exactly what the terminology was. And all the computer geeks were sort of like, geeking it out, looking up all of the protocols and stuff like that to sort of figure out what's going on, so they knew exactly what was happening with the AI and all the other drones and all the other bits and pieces that were going on. So it was quite an entertaining little segue on that one. I, again, didn't get to interact with their particular department all that much, but the attention to, I got asked to have a look at something for a while in between missions because all sorts of things were happening. So yeah, it was quite surreal. And when I learnt that they had to punch card everything, I was like, holy shit, that's hardcore. What's the next image I've got in the list?
She hits the fan.
She hits the fan. All right. This next image is a very important one because the political thing that I mentioned before, there was also a social scale. So there was Una 1, which was the area that I was sleeping in, and it had like 5 different levels, and each level was a social status. So I was at the top of the social status, and that's mainly because of the party I followed, which I was essentially Republican. I was like old Ronald Reagan type, Reaganomics type Republican. And it's quite funny because like a lot of the people who were playing the Republicans are going like, how do we do this? I was like, I don't know how to be nasty. It was so funny listening to their conversation after it all. So this image is really important because of the social ladder that was put into the game. It created another level of tension within the group of people. So these were the mid-level people who had gas masks, but were basically told to stay outside of the computer room because the computer room was a completely sealed area. So all of the Una 1s and the 2s basically got to go into the computer area and were safe. Like it was the most radiation shielded place in the whole complex, and everyone else basically, too bad, too sad. If you were like some of the 2s and some of the 3s, you got gas masks, and if you're the 4s and the 5s, you got nothing. And it was all basically, a lot of it was based on your political wrangling too. So like a lot of the people in the Explorer team, like we were spread out across different things. Like I was in like the Una 1, so I got to go up there. There's a couple of others in the Explorer team who got to go Una 1, but some of them in our Explorer teams are 5s. So we're kind of like, I think I snuck one in because of like, part of my team. I don't need you to die from radiation. I need you in my team. However, I wasn't the leader of the team, but I still thought out for him. And a friend of mine who I'd also met from Icarus said, snuck her way in because she does that. So yeah, it was a very interesting way that they played on that one. And that guy there, right in the center of the screen there, was actually one of the GMs. So one of the things they did when they were running this game is that they were actually part of it, not just some, vest-wearing GMs to answer questions. They introduced themselves as GMs at the start of the game, but they were part of it. And every time you asked a question about something, they would do it in character to answer it. Or if we say, where is this particular thing that we need? And especially in the engineering department, we had one of the girls would go, oh, here it is, because they knew where it was. But instead of saying, oh, it's just over there, out of character, it's kind of she would actually play it in character because she was playing a young kid or something like that. She's like, oh, look what I found. What the thing we were looking for type thing, which was actually really quite good. Right, so yeah, that was that. That was one of the very interesting things. So I think alarm systems sort of would go off and then we'd all scramble. And then go from there. So is that the last image I got on the list?
Yes, because you ran out of time.
I did run out of time, yeah.
We've only got 8 slides.
Yeah.
12 figures.
Alright, have I gone through everything? So I've gone through the political wranglings, I've gone through the alarm system and the social status with it all. I've gone through the bad food. One of the beautiful things with the Explorer teams, I didn't do it too much because I played a lot more of the I'm a senior. I had a character that had leadership but didn't want it because it's like being the captain of a starship. As soon as you become an admiral, you no longer have a starship. It's that mentality. So it's if I got promoted, I would definitely never be put on an Explorer team. So I never wanted to be promoted. I made sure I never got promoted. But I had all the experience of being a leader. So I played around being a bit of a leader somewhat, but I left it up to the other guy to sort of look after a lot of the logistics and stuff like that. But between him and one of the other people who was also part of the intelligence team, between the three of us, we had this fantastic dynamic, and it made, thanks to them, I think, and to everyone else as well, it was because I had that rest, I had that week out as well, I think also helped. It was a fantastic experience. I think I got the full what I could possibly get out of it. Just by luck, the character fitted me so well. And that is really important. I didn't realize it was that important until it happened after that event. I wasn't 100% sure. I wasn't 100% on any of the characters when characterization came around between the choices of what there were. So it was kind of a bit hard to sort of attach myself to something. But by pure luck and just some randomness, this was became perfect. Which is
you became grumpy old scout man.
I wasn't grumpy. I wasn't a grumpy old scout man. I actually no. I lie. I was a little bit. When they were coming back. Yeah, Republican. Oh no, I didn't go into the the debating side and the thingo so much. I was like, but it was more of the other Explorer team went out and they're not coming back. Protocol states they need to come back because I want to be the glory hound, motherfucker. I want to go out. If you come back and fail in your mission means I get to go out and be the glory hound, motherfuckers. What's that? You're not coming back and you're going to explore the rest of the place? Fuck off! That's my mission! That's my mission! You say, what? You got no communication? Oh, and you're not coming back? Oh, fuck. All right. Oh, that's it. I'm going out there then. You want to be a glory hound? So will I. I will fix your shit. I had a lot of fun. And after that, we did a few more missions on the final day, and protocols were out the window. We just dropped the communication equipment because it only went for about 30 meters before it ran out of cable. Just dropped that shit and just started going through the whole place.
So did you find any more artifacts?
We found 2 sets of artifacts. I'm not going to tell. I can't really tell the overall plot because they are running this again in August. They're running another international one, stuff like that, and a lot of the stuff that was in those hallways, they may change it up for all I know, or it may be the same. They probably might be the same. It's not so much about what their mission was about. It's about the whole experience that was put forward. It was everyone involved, just so good. Because it doesn't really matter about what the actual overall plot is, but I'm not going to say what the plot is because it ruins it for everyone. But just the general, everything that was going on was not as irrelevant as everyone interacting with it. Like everyone wanting to be glory hounds and just created this environment of, I know what the fuck you're doing. But it's just everyone got into their characters so goddamn much. It was just, it's really hard to explain how good it was when people are playing.
What was the age range?
The age range was quite high.
So people who were a bit closer to the people who came from the 19th.
Yeah, I think the average was in the 30s. Yes. The maturity of the group was very big. Like, there were young kids there, which was actually, I also found really interesting. There was like 2 or 3 young kids that were able to come on.
Some kids in there, because otherwise it's a very stale bunker.
Yes, but the fact that they were actually able to come along and participate in part of it and actually become part of the game. Like, I remember one of the younger girls was purposely feeding misinformation everywhere because that was what she was doing, and she was getting right into it.
Just really like high school.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like there's like 2 people that came over from the States or Canada. I can't remember which one.
North America.
North America, yeah. Because it was quite funny because they did. You did a sign up, and then they did the first round of tickets, and they're a married couple that come from the States, and out of the married couple, the guy is hugely into Fallout, and the wife probably not quite as much. And she got the ticket. So yeah, she made a post about it and whatnot, a bit of rubbing in the face and whatnot, but they did the second round of tickets and pretty much all of us who wanted to go got in. Like, there were still actual spare characters we went into that particular event. Actually, it's a very good point. Like, in when I played Icarus, right, when I said earlier in this particular chat that there was like 5 pages to my character, in Fallout Bunker, the character that they display on the website for you to choose from is the only information you get about your character. There is no secrets, which I found interesting. I thought at first that having secrets means we could play these little secrets up on each other. But at the same time, it was a case of, it worked, you didn't need it.
Also, the premise is that you've lived your whole life in this bunker.
Yes.
There's not going to be any fucking secrets.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. Yeah. The only thing you have is your political wranglings.
Hey, that guy takes notes.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, like, my secret about, like, the fact that I was no longer on the pill and I was being secretly handed pills was on my character for everyone to see. Was part of my description before you made the choice.
Yeah.
So it is a secret of my character, but it was also something everyone could see.
If they chose to read that character.
Yes. Well, the thing is that you see it, but you because of the maturity of the group of people involved, they kind of knew that. Well, I don't know this is my character, so it's got nothing to do with me.
Not to meta.
Not to meta, essentially, yes. Which is really good. So yeah, it was a very interesting sort of games. They were like both of the games. Like, despite the fact that I didn't get quite as much out of Icarus, it was still just off the scale phenomenal. Bunker 101 was just. I can't even put words to it. Which is like one of the things I wanted to do tonight, which I didn't do earlier, but I will do now, is that the group who ran Bunker 101 are also running a Cthulhu-ish type LARP in the Sahara Desert in January next year. And I know one of our friends is going to go to it, and I hate the bastard for it. However, a lot of people hate me for doing these 2 LARPs, so it's all good. Alright, so it's...
Quick question. Have you been to Dragonfest?
Have I been to Dragonfest? Yes.
How would you compare them?
Totally different games. Couldn't compare it. Totally different games.
Alright, what about this compared to ATF?
If I was comparing it to ATF, still 2 totally different games.
I mean, even compared to each other, I'm guessing they're totally different games, but...
If I compared them to each other...
Like, level of immersion is probably a better way to put it.
After the Fall, level of immersion was really high. But because it is After the Fall, and its premise is easy to obtain, like, fantasy is really hard to get that immersion going because you've got to create set pieces and environments to make it seem more immersive.
And people really have to suspend
disbelief, and people really have to make their costumes in the bit to sort of create that fantasy. Whereas anything related to post-apocalypse is easy. You like pick a modern day style and rip it up. And some people can have a bit of fun and put some really cool aesthetics into it and stuff like that. But it's so much easier to do. But that's not a bad thing because it makes it so that it can be more immersive and create that sort of environment and stuff like that. And people have fun with it too, which is good.
I think bunkers would be fairly easy to do because of history and it's fairly recent history.
Punk?
The bunker.
Oh, the bunker, yes. The bunker was easy to do costuming wise because it's like 1950s, which is basically suits and petticoats and dresses and stuff like that. Yeah.
Shitty radios.
And shitty radios and stuff like that, yep.
And it all still existed.
Yeah, so you are quite correct in that particular sense. Like same with Icarus Base too. Icarus Base made the immersive high because the costuming for that was easy. They supplied it all because it was all overalls. Even if they didn't supply big overalls for big guys like me. I don't blame them, realistically.
No,
but yeah.
Just to be skinny.
Yes, pretty much.
Because you're staffed on slot.
Yep. Supposed to be.
How did you get so big? What have you been eating?
Alright, so I think I've forgotten a whole heap of stuff. It's really hard to sort of translate some of the stuff that happened. Like one of the girls, that's pretty much why I'm wrapping up. One of the girls who went to both of the events, we've become good friends. I didn't even realise she was going to bunker at 101 until I rocked up to the bus to take us to the bunker, and bang, there she is. Like, holy shit, it's been like another year. I'm getting to know her, like, holy shit, there's another one, and another one. Oh, alright, I'm already becoming familiar to this LARP scene. And they're all coming from, like, Spain and, Norway and from England, all over the place and stuff like that. So, yeah. Alright, I think on that note, we are going to finish up for the night slightly early because my good friend here, Nick, needs to also go home and do things. So I am going to say good night. If you are interested in doing any of this particular type of stuff and have the money to go overseas, again, the Sahara, Cthulhu-ish type LARP that they're running, yes, the tickets are roughly $600-700 each, but I'd probably pay double that because I've already seen what they're going to try and do. I'm like, oh yeah. It's the only way I could put it. So I'm going to say good night, everyone. Thank you for coming, and I've just put it into the floating screen.